Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 8th of July. And not too shocking. We had a little bit of weakness coming up with that rising cyan. We are in the safety zone, so it's not really a big concern. But we had the positive extreme right here that needed a little bit of that low retest coming right back to it. And we got pretty much that. Now, it did result in a couple of effects. Well, we'd already had the effect of the Starhawk coming up there, really very close to reaching that full target that we were talking about. But this will help the Ironhawk coming in at the decline at the close of the day. So there you can add into that particular setup, and that will require much less pop in order to finalize it. If we look at the ATR, a little over 10. So the true range of movement is really diminishing here in the soft time frame, but not a problem. It's still about to reach equity highs. We did have a close off of the 50K, another beautiful move there. That does move that to continued all-time highs, calculated all the way up there. That's what are we, a year and 4 months into it overall? Year, 4 months, 26 days, 17 hours, 39 minutes, and 4 seconds. You gotta love how that works. Performance graph wise, though, you can see that it's at the peak. One of the ones I like to look at, and you can always go into your TradeStation and you just click it, this would be under maximum adverse excursion. And basically what this is showing you with the red dots here is the maximum loss that has been sustained by the strategy. This is an important one to look at strategies, because what this is telling you is you're not going to expect to draw down greater than that number at any given time, but all these green dots represent how much further above that you can get as far as carried away. So we've had some gains between 30 and 40,000 on this, quite a few occasions, and then a large multiple that are between the 10 and 20. And so that's why we end up with such a phenomenal profit factor at over 2, even though we're barely winning 50% of the time. Because it's not about the wins, it's about the ability to stay with the right calls. And that's the power of it. Plain and simple. If we look at the day's results, it was no surprise. Started out with the holiday, obviously, was pretty flat. Then we went into deep red, and once we had the deep red, we just retraced those lows, and the little pops that came through weren't enough to take out any of the real major levels, and we just continued to sink there. So now we finally made higher pops with a couple of these, so we would expect to see a turnaround that will bring us back above those levels. No real shock with any of it. NQ still looking good. No objection to it whatsoever. And a little bit closer to weakness here when we're looking at the YM. So that becomes the barometer here, and that I'll be watching is if the YM starts to turn, then I'll be looking at the other additional factors to see where we're at. Let's move on. TLT, a little bit of a rebound. We had the steel cross above here, and then it popped above the previous day, and that gave a little bit of pop. Is that still a little bit too weak? You're going to need to see some continuation of that green move pretty strong in order to overcome the fact that that cyan is so much further ahead and certainly not making any peaks. I'd be watching the low pivot right here. See if it gets above. That would be the first indication, but that's still not that great. USO still looking ugly with the deep red. No shock with that. It also had the crossover coming through, but continued to fail on the green side of it. So no pop back from that like we just saw from TLT. A big difference between seeing those two visually. Gold holding up okay, but unfortunately you've got that cross back of the cyan, so that's going to project some weakness. It's still in the safety zone, but I would expect that that's going to remain a little bit soft. And the euro, we were expecting more weakness given what we were seeing from this, and sure enough, that's exactly what we're getting. No problems with any of these things. Some of them that we were expecting some softness. X was one of them, and it peaked out there with the orange. We were just waiting for cyan to get above red and white. Still hasn't, so even though there's going to be a little bit of weakness with the steel going below, not enough to really be of a problem. CLF we knew had popped out a little bit above our projection there at the 1571. We still had the rising red and white. A little bit of a pullback to take care of that positive extreme, which is now taken care of. The interesting thing will be to see if we can get cyan pops above there, indicating a broader short at this particular time. Seems okay. And WLT had come off that deep, nice rising red white, but now you're making lower peaks, And if this red rolls over, I would expect to have a bit more of a retrace of some of these positive extremes. Moving back down, that might be another opportunity to get into it as desired. Let's go ahead and run through the alert. Well, yeah, the Omega readings. Oh, the NASDAQ looks pretty healthy in there. Maybe a little too positive at this particular point. I'd expect to see a little bit more S&P variation like this. Yeah, there's a lot more red mixed in with green, much healthier. And Dow, not looking bad too. Nice mix within there. And our high flyers. A lot of selling going on with some of those, and that's not too shocking. It was a modestly down day for Monday. We knew that some of the euphoria from previous holiday run was about to wane. Apple still looked good. No objections with any of that. We've been following that one for a little while. All looking healthy. Amazon, just a little bit of weakness. See, and this is where we saw this happen at the end of the last week, where the steel had dipped below the cyan and you had some cyans rising. So it's just putting a little downside pressure. I mean, it's not a lot. It's just one of those where you can see that bulls kind of faded and creates just a tiny bit of weakness. If we were seeing a major change, it'd be big movements in red and or greens breaking below their points. It hasn't happened yet. So that's why you're not seeing a significant move. Some of the ones that already did have it, though, were like this with Facebook, and that have continued their decay. The little stuff, this is all you have to pay attention to. I mean, this gives you a broad stroke, and then you can take a look at the intraday ones as the signals come through and understand what the broader scope is. And at any point, you need to come back, screen save one of these from the video and utilize that. It gives you a broader plan that allows you then to take advantage of the intraday signals. And of course, those of you with the indicators, obviously, you've got the ultimate situation because you can look at all different time frames live as it goes. Tesla's still within that sell signal that began back over here, though still in the safety zone. So we were expecting to come back down to this 224 range area. You've now taken out the low of the positive extreme. It does leave this one all the way down here. But given what we're seeing with that, doesn't look like that's going to be necessarily the end of it, though. This is still a complete drop, so it hasn't turned around to create a new pivot or anything like that yet. So a little more weakness potentially there. Twitter, likewise, had the dip below with the steel where it began its soft decay. This is not bad at all. In fact, let me give a new opportunity here as you're retracing. The last positive extreme was right here. So just about there, the low 39.81, and even that open at 40 is right where you're at. So like it from there. All in all, looks pretty good. A little bit of healthy retrace to just cover a couple of the most recent positive extremes, and then we'll look for the next move that's about to target so that we can get ready. Obviously, with the 50K out, we do still see that the longer play of the daily is in there. Of course, that's going to have a much broader, 2.5 times ATR stop, so much bigger as far as that goes. So we'll be looking for the next 50K buy signal on the Opus 2. Go from there. As always, look for me on private Twitter feed, Stock Tweets. I'm going to be programming, also doing some adjustments that will add inputs for indicator subscribers to be able to turn off the numbers on things and just give you more added flexibility than working on combining series of the programs that will just reduce the information that you have to know and have and still be able to follow everything clearly. As always, we'll talk again tomorrow. Trade well.